Hello, love bugs. Tales of the Shire has come out to a lot of extreme criticism and speculation over the last couple of years of its development. And now that it is out, it is literally ripping gamers, it seems, in two different directions. On one side, we have cozy gamers and game reviewers coming out and saying that they want their money back, that the game is incredibly buggy, is crashing all the time, having all these problems. IGN rated it a 4 out of 10, saying that it's unpolished, it's unfinished. And then you have people on the other side who are saying it is a 10 out of 10. They can't stop playing it. It's exactly what the team said that they were going to give us, and they delivered on it. No, it's not for every single gamer, but that they absolutely love it. And then you do have a few of us who are kind of in between. So let's talk about it. So right off the bat, I'm going to say what's probably my most controversial thing of this entire video. And it's that indie game developers should no longer be putting their games on or trying to make their games for the Nintendo Switch. Now, hold on. Before you come for me, I just want to explain. Not only is Nintendo one of the hardest just groups in general for developers to have to code on, they have their own set of rules, their updates do crazy changes to games. The Nintendo Switch is an obsolete system. The Switch 2 is now finally out. If you have a Switch 2, I have slightly different advice, but if you have a classic Nintendo Switch, when the Nintendo Switch came out 10 years ago, that system wasn't even technologically up to par with the current consoles of its time. That is just the truth. The Nintendo Switch was meant to be a gaming console that allowed families to be able to have an experience of having a gaming console, but also that a kid could take into a bedroom and play handheld. It was more about the handheld capability of the Switch than it was about catching up to like the graphic technology and the processing power of an Xbox or a PlayStation, or God forbid, a PC, which is in an entirely different class. Notoriously, in the last few years, anytime particularly indie game developers have tried to put their games on the Switch, it has been met with horrible graphic reviews, absolutely terrible bugs that they can't figure out and can't explain, and very upset customers. So why do game developers keep putting their games on the Switch? Well, I would like to argue that most of them don't. If you look at the catalog of games that come on Xbox and on PlayStation, a lot of those games never even try to make it to the Switch because they know that the Switch cannot handle it. Except for the cozy genre. I think the cozy genre feels more pressure to be put on the Switch because they know that a lot of cozy gamers that kind of popped up maybe for the first time in 2020 with Animal Crossing only have Switches. They haven't upgraded to become gamers who have big PC setups or maybe have a computer in their home besides a tablet or a laptop, period. So if they want to reach that audience, they feel pressured to put their game on the Switch. But I think it's a mistake. Look at a game that I play all the time. Look at Palia and how Palia looks on the Switch compared to being on the PC. Now, sometimes I argue for Palia a little bit and say, you know, I'm glad that at least this free-to-play game is available on the Switch for people who only have the Switch so they can still take part in it. And I do think that there's like a very delicate balance that you have to find of, will my game play well enough that it's worth it for people to have it on there? Will they understand that the graphics aren't going to be as good? And there's a careful balance there that you have to try and find. To most developers, I want to say, unless you are building your game with the intent of it being on, in this case, let's say the Nintendo Switch 2, which I will say the Switch 2 is kind of the first time in a long time that Nintendo has really tried to make a console that can actually compete with some of today's technology. It might be easier than ever for indie games to put their games on the Switch 2. But unless you are intending and planning and understand that you're going to pretty much have to rebuild your game in a lot of ways in order for it to properly work on the Switch 2, please stop releasing your games for the Switch. I truly believe that the reason that Tales of the Shire is getting so review bombed and having so much conflict around it is because they released it on the Switch in a state that it should have never been released in. On the developer side of things, I feel a little bit bad for them because for some reason, a lot of Nintendo Switch players, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to say this to you guys, to the players. I'm sorry, but if you have a Nintendo Switch and that is the only system that you have right now, I feel for you. And I get it. I get that gaming is a luxury that is very, very expensive. And I don't ever want gamers to feel like they can't have access to things. But you can't expect to have the same experience on your $200 obsolete system as someone like me has on a $2,000 PC. You can't keep expecting developers and complaining when they can't give you the same experience on that system as some of us are getting on the Xbox, the PlayStation, on these more expensive, better systems. It's just the truth of it. And to those of you who are going, but Zelda, Ravi, Zelda was beautiful. Zelda was made by Nintendo only for that system. It was made specifically to work with only that system, meant to run only on that system. That is totally different from taking a game that is meant to work on Xbox or PlayStation or on PC and run on PC and then try to move it to the Switch. Look at all the trouble that Concerned Abe, the creator of Stardew Valley, just had simply putting out the update for Stardew Valley on the Switch. Almost no major issues or major bugs on PC. There were a few things because there's always going to be a few things, but nothing game breaking. And then Concerned Ape had to flat out put out an apology and say that he was embarrassed about the state of the update on the Switch. And that's just for a game like Stardew Valley. Not to say that there isn't some complicated coding there, but look at the graphics, y'all. So in summary to this part of my hot take rant, developers, please stop releasing games on the original Switch unless you are actually going to have the budget and the time to make it properly work, or the same thing that's happening to Tales of the Shire might happen to you. That being said, let's say in a miracle world, Tales of the Shire came out and either the developers made the decision to not put it on the original Switch, or they were somehow through some magical Lord of the Rings, Gandalf wizard magic, they were able to release it in the same state that it's in on PC. The only bug that I have walked through in about, I think I'm a little over 11 hours of gameplay, is just that my birds get a little confused sometimes when trying to take me home. They try to take me to doors that are closed. That's the only bug I've run into. I haven't had a single crash the entire time that I've played in almost 12 hours. And a lot of the weird little bugs and weird graphic things that people have been complaining about, I have not experienced. I was very vocal about the fact that I did not like how the Hobbits looked, and I did not like the art style in the original trailer that we got 2 years ago. Last year in October, when I got to play 90 minutes of Tales of the Shire for all of you, I felt a little bit differently. I still felt like the animations of the Hobbits was a little bit strange. I didn't like the way that they moved, but I did feel that once you were immersed in the style of the game, it felt like an art style and not like they were giving us low graphic quality. Now that the game is fully out, I actually love the graphics. This is just a personal take thing. I've heard a lot of people comparing them to really old console graphics and stuff like that. And I just think it looks like a style. To me, it just feels like the style of the game. It almost feels like the game is painted in this beautiful, whimsical kind of style. So that's just kind of a preference thing. As far as things in the game that I think are incredible, the real shining star to me of the game is the decorating style, the way that you can move things around in this grid-free placement, the ability to put things outside, inside, however you want, without having to have a bunch of chests and things. Your inventory just always kind of exists when you're on your plots. You can pull things and push things out. There's a lot of things about the style and the way that they did the decorating system for this game that I think other indie games need to take notice of. I say this a lot about indie games. I think that they're where the innovation and the change happens in our industry, and where I think Tales of the Shire is going to be remembered of making a mark in the future is its decorating style. I'm sure there's other indie developers who are looking at this, and cozy game developers looking at this and going, oh wow, that's great. And this is what players have been asking for. Are there still some things that could be changed and improved upon it? Absolutely. I would love to see some more color options and swatches and things like that. Those are things that maybe will come in an update, but honestly, the way that the game is being reviewed, maybe not. We might not get an update. But while there are some things that I would change about it, I think that another developer could really take that concept and run with it. And that's what we want to see from indie games. The heart of the game and what they've always advertised and said that they want to give us is the cooking stuff. Now, I really like the cooking in the sense of I like the way that you have the day of to figure out the kind of recipe that everybody wants. And you have to try and get the right ingredients so that you can make them something that they would like. I like that little kind of light puzzle aspect to the game, but also that there's no real penalty for doing poorly besides a little animation from the Hobbit going no, and then you don't get as big of a level with them, but it's more like there's a reward for doing well instead of like a penalty for doing badly, which I think is pretty cool and feels cozy. I mean, the thing that they wanted this game to always be was a true cozy game that was non-stressful and sweet and felt like a warm hug. That's how they have explained it since the beginning. They were not trying to be Animal Crossing. They were not trying to be Stardew Valley. They were trying to be their own true, pure cozy game, which kind of brings me to my next hot take, which is that cozy gamers have become very demanding and very specific to our developers. And I think we really need to talk about it. Cozy means different things to different people. And I think that that's valid. I don't think that we have to decide that just because you're a cozy gamer, you have to like every single game that falls underneath the cozy genre. There's a bunch of different subgenres within cozy. Even a lot of people, kind of the game that started it all, which we've talked about a lot in this video, Stardew Valley. A lot of people say that Stardew Valley is not cozy because there is going to the mines and going and fighting monsters and stuff like that. They say that's not cozy because you deal with themes of trauma and stuff like that. They say that's not cozy. And I think that that discourse is really important in talking about Tales of the Shire, because I think that there are a lot of really great things in this game that the developers absolutely told us that they were going to deliver on, and they did. They wanted it to feel like a beautiful game that was a cozy hug inside the Shire, focused on cooking and making little relationships with your Hobbit friends. They never claimed for the game to be replacing giant MMOs or anything like that. It was meant to feel like a warm hug. And to me, it does. Now, I'm a cozy gamer who actually likes going to the mines, who likes doing battling, because I came from first-person shooters. That was, I'm late to the cozy genre. I came from the other side. So I actually like that kind of stuff in my game. I would love for a little like mining section, but at the same time, I kind of don't, because I don't think it's right for this game. I think this game is meant to be super simple, super relaxing, super de-stressing. It's not meant to be something that is stressed and rushed. So I don't think this game is for everyone. If you play simulators with stressful time restraints and you call that cozy, that's fine for you. But for most people, that's not very cozy. And that's also okay. It's okay to decide, you know what, this game isn't for me. And it's another thing to say, this game is bad because it isn't for me. Does that make sense? I feel like a lot of people who are reviewing it and saying all of these bad things about it are comparing it to games that it never tried to be and never wanted to be like. And I feel like that's just not fair. I feel like we have become so oversaturated with all of the games that we have available to us that we're expecting every indie developer that comes out to be able to hit the same standards as all these other games before them, when sometimes they're releasing something that they never have any intention of doing that. Treating Animal Crossing as like the bar that everybody should hit is wholly unfair, especially to indie developers who will never have anything close to that budget, who are often walking in without the fan base, which I would argue that Tales of the Shire does have a little bit of the fan base, but not like Animal Crossing, not in the sense that, oh, here's this game that so many of you have, millions of you have played before, and now here's the new version of it. This is, oh, you like Lord of the Rings? Here's a whole new, entirely different concept that's only meant for some of you. And so then the other people who thought, well, I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, so I should like this. Well, no. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan who likes playing cozy games, then this game is for you. But if you don't like playing cozy games, this game is not for you. I spend a lot of time talking about this kind of topic on my channel because a lot of people make requests of developers not understanding how many hundreds of hours sometimes have to go into putting something in a game that you might in your brain think of as simple. But coding and stuff isn't simple. It's complicated, and everything takes time, and time equals money when you're a game developer. And depending on your budget, you have to decide where you're going to put the money. And the downside with cozy gaming is that because there are so many different kinds of cozy gamers where different things are important to them, it's really hard to listen to the community and decide on where you should put your money. Like I said before, some cozy gamers love going to mines and love doing puzzles and love doing that kind of stuff. Some cozy gamers just want to decorate and really want a million different decorating options and color changing options. Other cozy gamers don't give a crap about decorating and are over decorating and just want lots of story and lots of lore. And when you have them, you know, these people pulling you in all these different directions, how do developers make a decision when they only have budget for one of those things? Anyway, back to Tales of the Shire and how I feel about the actual game. As far as the cooking mechanics go, there's a lot of it that I like, but there's also some stuff that I don't. I wish that there was more animation while your hobbit was kind of standing there, like they were doing more in the kitchen. Now that I've gotten a little further in the game, I realize we do start to get additional items to cook with, which I'm really happy for. I think there need to be a bunch. It should even get to the point where maybe it's even a little bit extra complicated in order to keep it interesting. I really do think that the cooking, though, is what's keeping me excited about the game. I really love hosting the meals and doing stuff for them. I also wish that when you actually hosted the meals that maybe there were some hidden little animations or maybe conversations or something that would happen when certain villagers are eating together. I think that that would also be something that would be interesting since the meals are the main point of the entire game. I wish that they had put a little bit more into those. Little petty things. I also think it's ridiculous that the farmer only sells seeds. Like, even if he only had, like, Farmer Cotton only had like 3 items a day and that was it, like whatever his current hot vegetable is or something, so he wouldn't always have what you need. Like, I still think that would be fun if I could just go and buy anything that I possibly need every day. It would make the game, I think, a little bit boring. I do think I want a little bit of a challenge of making sure I'm keeping up with my gardening. But like, maybe sometimes he has a cucumber and I get lucky that he has a cucumber the day I need a cucumber. You know what I mean? I like the system for leveling up within the different skills. I also actually like that there is no system forcing me to go around and talk to all the villagers every day. I think if I had to do that, I'd be going bonkers. There's not a lot of villagers really, but if you had to talk to them all the time like you do in some other games, I think that would drive me nuts trying to come up with gifts and things for everybody. I like that I am focused on the 1 to 4 hobbits a day that I'm cooking for, and that's really it, and maybe a little bit of storyline. I like that there's not a lot of stress about that. I think it keeps the game feeling cozy instead of leading into that stressful side. We do need more decor stuff. Decorating your hobbit hole is definitely the end game of this game. Like, once you have wrapped it up and you're probably still hanging out in the game, really what you're going to be doing is making a beautiful hobbit hole. They need to make sure that there are lots of items within the game for us to use and color changing items. And I haven't, like I said, I haven't completely gotten through the game, so I don't know if I know we keep getting lots of furniture as we're playing. I've been getting a lot more furniture, but I just have a pretty strong feeling that I'm gonna need even more, especially for wallpapers and things like that, beam changes, windows, all of that good stuff. Since that is end game of the game, I do think they should have put even more in than what's in right now. Though I do like the options, I really do like the style. I really do think that what they've done with decorating is the shining diamond within this game. I want more. I want more. The game has a ton of cute little touches. I love that you can talk to the animals. I love the styles of the letters that you get from different people that make me laugh. I really, really do enjoy a lot of the game. I truly am having a lot of fun playing it, which is going to lead me to the next little bit, which is just its cost. I've been standing on my soapbox a lot over the years in support of indie developers and their budgets and what they end up charging for their games, and honestly, just game development in general. People being shocked that a video game costs $60 is wild to me. Creatives and developers deserve to be paid for their work. And we are watching, y'all are literally watching all of these indie studios, all these publishers close because they can't make money selling the games at the levels that they're at. They can't pay their employees livable wages, and you're still trying to say that games are too expensive. I'm sorry, but we have to give and we have to take. Like, you can't ask developers to put hundreds of hours into a game to give you a system that you want in a game and then also not expect to pay for it. That is just not how it works. Everything that someone does in a video game to make something in a game costs money. That's just the fact of it. If you simply just want an extra new storyline, that is hundreds of hours of work for multiple people in a game. And I wish that game developers were a little bit more like open about that kind of stuff and more transparent with people about what it costs for them to put something into a game, because we're talking tens of thousands of dollars sometimes to implement new areas into a game. We're talking about selling hundreds of copies of the game. So they have to weigh how many new people are going to buy this because we implemented it. And is it enough new people that it's worth us to spend the money up front and gamble on the fact that then people will go and buy it? That's a crazy way to have to run your business. Games haven't really gone up in price with inflation. And how I kind of do my own personal math as to whether a game is worth it to me money-wise is like this. Now, you can feel free to use this. You can feel free to say, Ravi, I don't give a crap about what you're saying. All games should be free. You're wrong, but like you can feel that way if you want. But this is kind of how I think about games. First off, I want to lead in with the fact that back in the day, like I'm an old gamer. I've been gaming since I was a kid, and that was like 30 years ago. So I came from the world where like 6 to 13 hours of storyline gameplay was solid for a video game. If you got 10 hours of solid gameplay out of a game that you paid $60 for and played through its storyline, that meant that game was a good game. Good job. They crushed it. They did a great job. Maybe it has some replayability for you to go in and get new achievements or trophies or whatever it is that you were hunting. Maybe there was a co-op mode you would then play with a friend and play through again. But if game developers worked hard enough over several years to make a game that was that long, that was good. But as we've moved forward in technology and games like Skyrim have come out with hundreds of hours of gameplay, also a game that took 7 years to make. 7 years, let me point out. Gamers have become more demanding about what they expect from their gaming experience with like extreme replayability or hundreds of hours of gameplay. And the truth of it is that every single game can't deliver on that. And in my opinion, they shouldn't have to. So this is my kind of personal math that I do to decide whether I personally think a game was priced correctly or not. And I go by movies, because I think that the way that movies are created is very similar to how games are developed. You start with an idea and a concept, you have writers, you create a story, you bring in designers to create a storyboard to then plan that out, you hire a director, you get actors, you put it all together. It takes years of slowly building out the frame before you go and shoot, and then it goes into editing. It's a very similar thing to development of a video game. When I go to the movie theater to support a new film, if I want to be on the ground floor supporting it on day one and being part of its hype, I'm probably going to have to spend at least $20 when I go to the movie theater. And that honestly is being generous, like that's low. Most likely I'm going to spend $30 when I go to the movie theater. But let's say I hit a matinee, I got a discount popcorn, I spent $20 for about probably 3 hours of entertainment, whether for part of the experience of going to the movie theater, sitting through the film. I probably spent 2 to 3 hours depending on the movie, but let's say 3 hours. So therefore, I like to rate that at least $20, my $20 is worth about 3 hours of entertainment. And I think that that's pretty valid. I would pay $20 to go see a stand-up, like talk at a show. I would pay a $20 fee to go do that. I would pay a $20 fee to go into a really good club to see a DJ. And so that's kind of how I validate my money. So if a game is $40, I need to have at least 6 hours of true enjoyment and fun from that game in order to feel that that it was well priced for me and that I got a good bang for my buck. Now, I will say I do rate this a little bit differently for different kinds of games. I use the like 6 hours for $40 rating on a game that is, say, a single player, like what I'm playing with Tales of the Shire, a single player story, something that I'm doing on my own. For multiplayer repetitive games, I do require a little bit more from them. I double it for those kinds of games because they're meant to continuously be enjoyable from doing a repetitive thing. If that repetitive thing is already boring to me after 8 hours, then I don't feel like my money was worth it. Now, you can think of it that way if you want, or you can not think of it that way if you want. This is just my personal thing that I'm sharing with you guys, but I'm just trying to give you a little bit of insight into what you would pay to be entertained and comparing that to the video game world, because I feel like video games are expected to be replayable, expected to have hundreds of hours of gameplay, or at least 100 hours of gameplay. They have all of these extreme expectations about how much you should get out of. Sometimes with an indie game, your $20 is all they charge. Or in Tales of the Shire's case, on PC, it's $34.99. That for $34.99, it should be replayable and have all of these hours. Like, those expectations for that cost are just not realistic. It is totally fine to decide that something costs too much for your budget. It's totally fine to have to wait for a sale to be able to afford something. I do that all the time, and I've actually been highly recommending that with Tales of the Shire. If the game looks good to you and you want to play it, but you're like, do I want to spend $35? You know this game will be on sale in the fall. You know it's going to be in a Steam sale at some point. wait until then. There's no rush to jump into this game. Well, I had someone in my chat the other day who said, you know when this game is going to be perfect for me? In the fall, when I'm looking for a cozy game to get away from all the AAA titles dumping in before Christmas, to escape and play in my bed on my Steam Deck under a blanket with a cup of tea. It's going to be perfect. Lord of the Rings playing in the background. I was like, absolutely. That would be the perfect time to play this game. There's no reason to rush and go and get it right now if you can't afford it. That's fine. But just because an item isn't in your budget right now does not mean that item is overpriced or incorrectly priced. And I think that's a really important thing that we have to remember, especially when you're dealing with small businesses and indie developers who do not have access to the same tools and the same budgets as big companies. So, in summary, is Tales of the Shire perfect? Absolutely not. I think they have a lot of ways that the game could be grown on or built out on, and I'm sad that I don't think they're going to get that opportunity because of the way that it is being reviewed. Do I think that people who have reviewed it and absolutely bombed it are valid? If they played it on the Switch, I do. On the Switch, with the bugs and the problems and the graphics, I think that IGN is valid in giving it a 4 out of 10. I think people who are saying that they want their money back are valid. On the Switch, I do not think that Tales of the Shire should have ever released on the Switch. It shouldn't have. However, do I think the game is good? I do. I think it is enjoyable. I think it is fun. I am not sad that I spent my $35. And before people in the chat start saying like, oh, well, you're sponsored by them. No, I'm not. I have never gotten a penny from Project Division. I have never gotten a penny from Veta Workshop. I was asked to stream Hobbit Day for them last year, but I was not paid for that. I was just given an opportunity. I am not sponsored by them at all. I have no real contact with them, and I paid my own money for this game. They did just send me a copy of it, but I had already purchased it, and I'm going to give that away to my community. This is my truthful, honest opinion. I think that the game is worth the money that they are asking for it. If you're playing on PC or even on one of the new age consoles, I think the game is fun. I think it's exactly what they told us that it was going to be, not what people hoped for or expected, not what people said, I wonder if we could have this, wouldn't that be great? What they said that they were going to give us, I think they delivered on. If I were to review the game with everything that's currently happening on the Switch, I would probably give it a 7 out of 10. If it hadn't released on the Switch and we were only having it in its current state that I am experiencing it on the PC, I'd probably give it a 7.5, maybe closer to an 8. This game is not for everybody, but not every game has to be. Okay, I love you. Bye-bye.